This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee frowns. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 138, submission number 090, The Powers of Matthew Starr. The Powers of Matthew Starr aired on NBC from September 17th, 1982 to April 15th, 1983 for 22 episodes.
Here on Earth, the prince is known as Matthew Starr. He's a typical American teenager. He has friends, people who love him, and me, his guardian. I'm the only one who knows how special he is. Life for us is a series of joys and dangers, for enemy assassins constantly come to destroy us. Alone, we must survive.
Kids, I'm going to tell you the story of a wandering soldier who is trekking a little child through the depths of space. No, not that one. One involving a mop-top 15-year-old and Louis Gossett Jr. Well, what did you think I was talking about?
I don't know. I thought you were talking about the upcoming star of HBO's The Last of Us.
No,
That's a good reference, Greg. I like it.
No, I was talking about the guy who was in Wonder Woman 1984 with crazy-ass mustaches.
Life is good, but it can be better.
Yes, Pedro, life is good and it can be better, and that is basically the premise of this series, which finds a pair of wandering aliens trapped on Earth just try to survive getting shot at repeatedly by other aliens.
Sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, it's fun. And I'll tell you right now, well, it goes a little bit deeper, but at the same time it's much less than it could have been. I like to say that The Mandalorian is basically The Powers of Matthew Starr if it was given the proper structure.
If it didn't involve a cute kid.
Hey, Peter Barton is cute. He's no Baby Yoda, but yeah. So how did this show come to be? Well, Stephen E. D'Souza, who would go on to create future installments, Supercarrier, you know, Supercarrier with the ship and all. And it was developed by Daniel Wilson, Harve Bennett, Robert Earl, and Alan Balter. Now, if you don't know who Harve Bennett is, what podcast are you even listening to?
What podcast do you even listen to? Because he developed The Mod Squad, among other shows that he did. And not only that, but he was the executive producer on Star Trek's 2, 3, 4, and 5.
He was involved in Mod Squad, $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, and future entry, Salvage 1.
The hell is Salvage 1?
Andy Griffith in Space.
Yes, and that's not even a joke.
What? That is not even a joke.
It's Andy Griffith in space, and he owns sort of like a space junkyard, kind of like Sanford and Son.
It's like,
but it wasn't a comedy though.
What?
Oh gosh, we lost Greg,
and Greg is dead.
This involves Andy Griffith in space. He owns a junk company, and it's a serious show. What the hell?
He had a pilot and a payload officer and everything.
So this was like, what, Firefly before Firefly?
This was Firefly before Firefly.
All that's missing is da 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 da.
Yeah. And by the way, since I brought up Firefly, I just want to get Gil away so I don't have to discuss Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon! Anyway.
Yeah, let's skip that.
Okay. But lest you think that Harv Bennett is the only Star Trek connection, there's more. There's so much more. And it goes so much deeper. Isn't that right, Mike?
I'll take your word for it. I want to see where you're going with this.
Oh, well, we'll go over the episodes later. You'll, see where we're going with this.
Yeah, we talked about before the show about the more Star Trek connections with this show, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's more to this than what I thought was a really bad fever dream when I was in the hospital.
Huh.
There actually are good people behind this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's more than Harv Bennett.
Yes. So, originally, this show was called The Powers of David Star. And it had the similar premise to what you heard in the open, which, just saves us about 5 minutes trying to explain what the show's about. Thanks, Louis Gossett Jr. But we had a baby being trucked through space by a guy named Max, played by Gerald S. O'Loughlin.
Do you mean that Gerald S. O'Loughlin, who was on an episode of Automan for installment?
Oh my God!
Zippers. It wasn't Zippers, I swear.
Was it the episode that had Peter Marshall in it?
I don't know. Get me out of this.
So the original premise takes David Starr, who is now a teenager, and all of a sudden he's developing these strange powers, and Max, who is, rearing him as a guardian of sorts, basically has to tell him, son, you're an alien. You're not just any alien, though. You are the long-lost prince of an alien galaxy. Well, what about my parents? Your parents are dead.
Oh, that's terrific.
And instead of random assassins from week to week, we have the FBI, which plays into the whole the government agents are bastards trope.
Plus, also, this is around the time of E.T., and I just wonder if there's a little connection there in some capacity. Because the government wanted E.T.
Governments are bastards. Anyway, it was eventually reworked into the powers of Daniel Starr. They shot a pilot, but they did not cast Gerald S. O'Loughlin in the pilot. They cast Louis Gossett Jr. as the guardian of Daniel Starr.
Oh, Peter, I love you.
And I love you, Lou Gossett Jr.
But when it was ordered to series, they changed his name again to Matthew Starr.
Is the first name really that important? Powers of David Starr begat Powers of Daniel Starr, which begat Powers of Matthew Starr.
Yes. And they picked up the powers of Daniel Starr, but they renamed him to Matthew Starr. Which, I don't know what the story was behind that.
Maybe they figured Matthew Starr was like the least problematic name. I don't know.
Maybe. So, what is Matthew Starr doing on Earth? Well, I could tell you, but Louis Gossett Jr. pretty much stole my thunder at the top of the show. He's here as a refugee, hoping to hone his powers to a point where he can return and free his people from... They never say.
Oh.
They never say who the bad guy is.
Hmm.
You would think that was important.
I guess they figured that later on in the series they'd reveal who the bad guy is, and we never found out who the bad guy is.
We never found out who the bad guy... I mean, even in Sliders we found out who the bad guys were.
Yeah,
and there weren't any bad guys in Sliders to begin with.
Yeah, there was, what, those Cro-Mags or whatever they
Cro-Mags.
were called?
The Cro-Mags. Yeah. By the way, Tracy Torme is a genius. Just saying. That's one show we will not talk about on this program.
Yeah, not even the Sci-Fi Channel seasons, which are terrible.
So, Alien Prince, named E-Hawk, now goes by the name Matthew Starr. His guardian, D-High, now goes by the name Walt Shepard. They're on the run from whoever's trying to kill them at the time. And it just so happens that the government's also looking for them. And yet, a tale of two series, basically. Because at the first half, they're on the run from the government, and the second half, they're actually working for the government. But there was actually no sort of explanation as to why that is. It just happened. Why did it just happen? This is confusing.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
I have something to declare.
What are you going to declare?
I'd like to use my money in the bank, please.
He's cashing in!
Yeah. I needed to break up this absolute monstrosity of a show by
please
declaring.
Do!
Yeah, I had to do that by declaring my desire to use the money in the bank option next week.
And what is it?
Oh, you really want me to say? Okay.
Yes.
This is a show that, it's beloved to me. It only ran for 6 episodes, and I can understand why it ran for 6 episodes, but the whole series, not just the show, but the entire franchise has a place in my heart. I'm talking about a show from 20 years ago, You Don't Know Jack!
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
playing the game would be more CD-ROM game would be more better than this.
Oh, well, playing the CD-ROM game with the sound off would be better than this because the sound is what makes the entire game. Playing this game without any sound is not really that much fun. You have to have Cookie shooting in interjections and wise-ass comments.
I know, but playing this game would be more fun than the powers of Matthew Starr. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Playing You Don't Know Jack while being hooked up to an IV and having fever dreams would be better than this.
Okay.
I just want to remind everybody that this is the product of your fever dreams.
Okay. All right, Chico, resume.
Okay, so we'll go over what happens between episode 12 and episode 13 when we talk about the episodes, but let's talk about the cast here. First, we have young Matthew Starr, a.k.a. E-Hawk, played by Peter Barton.
Who that guy be?
Oh, he's just a guy with a nice haircut. But yeah, he was on Sunset Beach for 167 episodes. He was on Burke's Law for 25 episodes, the original Burke's Law from 1994. He originated the role of Dr. Scott Granger from The Young and the Restless.
Oh.
And if it makes any difference, Playgirl magazine named him one of the 10 sexiest guys in soaps.
No, it doesn't make any difference, actually.
So he's that guy from that Playgirl survey, Greg.
Okay.
Well, the lady is.
And, well, do we really have to talk about what Louis Gossett Jr. is best known for?
Yeah,
This is so crazy, because at this time, he was in An Officer and a Gentleman.
He won the Oscar!
He won the Oscar for it. And, guys, you know how he followed it up the next year?
He did this show.
Well, no, that too, but he was in Jaws 3D with Dennis Quaid. And you know who else was in Jaws 3D, guys?
Leah Thompson.
She was in that too. Mike, do you want to take a guess?
Oh my gosh, I've never seen Jaws 3D.
Simon McCorkadale!
Yes! Simon
God, for heaven's sakes.
Manimal!
Jeez. Everything goes back to Simon McCorkadale. Oh, no.
I can't wait till we eventually do the episode of the Dukes of Hazzard Simon Kirkendale was in, where he had a mustache.
So Peter Barton and Louis Gossett Jr., they are aliens who may or may not be... They're humanoid, or they may just assume humanoid form. We don't know. We don't care.
Hold on. Speaking of Lou Gossett Jr. and aliens and Dennis Quaid, they were both in Enemy Mine in 1985.
Oh, man, I love that movie.
Yes. A powerful movie about friendship.
Yes.
Go see Enemy Mine if you have never seen it.
Yes. Next Generation may have ripped that off for an episode. Just saying. Darmok and Jalal at Tanagra. Anyway, then you have Matthew's girlfriend, Pamela Elliott, played by Amy Steele, who is on not one, but 2 Friday the 13th movies. I'm surprised she survived that. But yeah. And she was also, through the 80s, a perennial that lady from That Thing, because she was in Family Ties, Chips, The A-Team, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, and she was also in Viper, Home Improvement, Diagnosis, Murder. She likes to bounce around. Did she have any other just solid role in? No. Wait, that's not true. She was in For Love and Honor, but she basically did guest shots and Friday the 13th memorabilia. And then you have his best friend, Bob Alexander, played by Chip Fry.
He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
No, man, I'm going to have to go to IMDb for this. Mm-hmm.
How sad is it that he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page?
Well, he was in a couple of episodes of The Incredible Hulk, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
But this is basically the best known of his actual resume. Although, yeah. There are some things that we are not going to mention that he did.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Okay.
But Chip Fry this was basically the beginning, middle, and end of Chip Fry's career. The first half of The Powers of Matthew Starr. And then you have Principal Heller, who is played by Michael Fairman. He was also that guy from That Thing. The earliest of his credits was Charlie's Angels, and the latest of his credits is Monk, and he also played Patrick Murphy on The Young and the Restless. His career is storied. And then you have, on the first half of this series, you have John Crawford, who plays General Tucker, and he appeared on the 100 Yards Over the Rim episode of The Twilight Zone, and played the mayor of San Francisco in The Enforcer, the third Dirty Harry movie.
If you want a more regular gig that he did, he played Sheriff F. Bridges on The Waltons for 40 episodes, according to IMDb.
Oh, nice. And then midway, and we'll talk more about this when we go over the episodes. I'm guessing Mike's got the episode guide pulled up.
Oh, I've already done my research.
Oh, boy. We have James Karen, who plays Major Wymore, who goes around, meets the Quadrians, and gives them assignments of the week, which is just weird. Sadly, James Karen no longer with us. But he has a recurring role as Tom Bradford's boss on 8 is Enough. And much like everyone else on this show, he was a veteran of All My Stories. Most specifically, As the World Turns and All My Children. And that's basically the beginning and the ending of the ensemble cast. But we don't hear much of Pamela Elliott, Bob Alexander, or the principal, or General Tucker after the middle of the show, where everything just goes all pear-shaped?
Now, wait, I want to mention one more thing about James Karen.
Tell me about it.
Just going through his IMDb, I found one credit which I know a number of people who listen to this will actually enjoy. Back in 1987, if you watched Square One TV, everybody remembers MathNet. And actually, one of the I shouldn't say episodes, it was shown throughout the entire week, was the trial of George Frankly. When George went on trial, he played the prosecutor in the trial of George Frankly.
MathNet is my Square One wings.
Oh, Matt, who does not like Square One? And the thing is, if you don't know what Square One is, you're clearly not 35 or 40 years old. You're a youngster. Go ask an older adult.
Google it. We're not here to educate you.
Yeah, you might actually learn something.
Mm-hmm. So, who exactly is looking for Matthew Starr and Walt Shepard? They never say. But it is implied because they appear on Earth all the time, but sparingly because apparently they have an aversion to water. What is this, the end of Westworld? But anywho, I'm sure this will all be explained as we go over the episodes, and if not, then I'm just going to have to die stupid here.
Maybe it'll be a giant fever dream to you, too.
This already reads like a giant fever dream to me. Can we talk about the episodes? Or is there anything we need to bring up? Anything we need to... No, let's talk about it.
I think we just need to get it done with, minimize the pain.
Yeah, because obviously. Okay, so the first episode...
It's Jackal.
A jackal! Jackal! It's a jackal! It looks like a jackal! 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 It's a jackal! Jackal!
Time!
It wasn't right the first time you said it. Why the hell would it be right the next 10 times? God!
Matthew Starr appears to be a typical teenager, but in actuality is an alien who is a member of the ruling family of his planet who are endowed with powers like telekinesis and telepathy. When his home planet was invaded, his parents gave him, when he was a baby, to one of their trusted emissaries who went on to Earth because it's almost like their homeworld, and they await the time when Matthew's powers are developed enough so that he can return and lead his people against the invaders. His guardian, who's had to change his name several times, is using the name Walter Shepard. And when an Air Force general shows up, Walt tells Matt that their enemies are also near. But Matt, who's become attracted to a girl named Pam, decides he won't run. So they decide to confront the assassin and discover she's a robot. Later, Walt is captured by the other one and calls Matt to come, which is surely a trap.
It's a trap!
It's a trap!
It's a trap!
I'd like to say, we know what two of Matthew Starr's powers are, telekinesis and telepathy. I like this a heck of a lot more when it was done 3 years later as Misfits of Science.
You know what? We should cover Misfits of Science.
Is it on the list already?
I think we're
It's
definitely
on the
gonna
list,
do
but
that.
we gotta put it on the schedule.
Yeah, you know what? Find a hole, put it in there.
Yeah, Mike, do that.
Yeah, we got to talk about Courtney Cox back in 1985. Absolutely.
Courtney Cox, I love you.
Oh, no.
So-
I know where it's going. I saw that episode of South Park.
Episode 2.
Oh, wait. I've got something to add. I thought we were going to
add it, bruh.
Yeah, I thought we were going. We were still talking about episode 1. I'm going to chime in. There's actually one name. She played a bus driver in this episode, and she went on to much bigger things about 5 years later. Susan Rattan from L.A. Law.
Oh!
Yeah, she played a bus driver in this premiere episode.
Oh, man. She'd go on to bigger and better things 4 years later.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, much better than Matthew Starr.
Episode 2. The Accused. When a cop is killed while the police were in the middle of an operation, one of the other cops recognizes Walt as the killer. Walt is arrested, and at his arraignment, they produce a videotape that shows that Walt killed the cop. Walt is held without bail, Walt tells Matthew that the man is Walt's counterpart on Earth. When Matthew fails to convince the police they have the wrong man, he goes out and tries to find Walt's counterpart, which won't be easy, because the man's associates will do whatever they have to do to protect him. By the way, this shouldn't be a shock. Fake Walt is played by Louis Gossett Jr. in a dual role.
So what? This is basically the 1982 equivalent of a Skrull.
Yes. An interesting name in the guest list, Stuart Pankin.
Oh, that's Stuart Pankin?
Yep.
Yeah. But also another interesting guest name that I saw was Lynn Hamilton. And you may be like, who's Lynn Hamilton?
I will know when you tell me.
She played Donna on Sanford and Son.
Oh.
Damn right she did.
Yeah.
And a third interesting name, Carmen Argenziano, who's had, well, quite a career for himself. He's that guy from That Thing, but he's best known for The Accused, Broken Arrow, Blue Streak.
Oh, okay. So he was in an episode of this show called The Accused.
Yes.
And he was in the movie The Accused.
Yes.
I'm going to resist a joke here.
Good. Episode 3. Daredevil. Pam Elliott is acting in a bad zombie movie. Sorry. Matthew finds his old friend Pete is trying to get into the stunt work and is forced to save him time after time.
No, that was a movie from 3 years earlier with Malcolm McDowell and David Warner.
I think I remember that movie.
Maybe that's where Cyndi Lauper got the title for the song.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Corinne Bohrer plays a character named, are you ready for this?
Okay, what is it?
Cheerleader.
Oh, that's not typecasting at all.
Oh, no. This was before she became a witch and an au pair to a young Allison Hannigan. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Allison Hannigan now in the recently released, as of today when we record his movie on Disney Plus, Flora and Ulysses, which is very good.
I'm going to watch that.
It's very good.
I want to watch that.
No, and we should also add, directing this episode, a name we've mentioned in the past, Bruce Bilson.
Yep.
And, another guest that we can't really skip here, playing Frank Trenton in this episode, Bill Daly.
That Bill Daly?
The legendary Bill Daly.
The legendary Bill Daly from Bob Newhart Show and Match Game and other TV shows. Yeah, absolutely.
My goodness. Episode 4. Genius. Nerdy student Monica Kraft has created a paint which seems to interfere with Matt's powers. Matt and Walt have to neutralize it before it is mass-produced. They also discover that it's unexpectedly explosive. And in a B-plot, Matt asks Monica out on a date. Now, hold on! Wait a minute. Isn't Matt and Pam supposed to be a thing?
I'm just wondering why he's going out with Monica when she created this paint that neutralizes him.
I don't know. I absolutely have no idea.
That seems sort of counterproductive, but also, as you said, doesn't he already have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like Saved by the Bell continuity.
No, we're getting to that.
Oh.
An interesting note, the director, Bob Claver, whose credits include, as a director, Out of This World, Charles in Charge, The Monsters Today, Small Wonder, Leave It to Beaver, basically your whole crappy playlist of your childhood.
Oh, that's great.
We will be talking about some of his credits in future episodes.
And I'm just here to add that playing a security guard, at least in his IMDb profile, he goes by the name Beans Morocco.
What?
Sorry?
He was credited as Dan Barrows in this episode, but if you look at his IMDb, he uses the name Beans Morocco.
Oh.
I'm just here to say Beans Morocco.
Say it one more time so we can move on.
Beans Morocco. Next episode.
Prediction. Matthew's friend Bob is drag racing with hottie Becky Vance on board. He saves them from a crash and in the process sees something disturbing in her mind. The vision turns out to be a prediction.
It's not that this show's going to be canceled in 6 months, is it?
Don't I wish. And playing the hottie Becky Vance is Suzanne Atkinson, who was basically that hottie from That Thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, Bob, you tried.
And Suzanne Atkinson's most recent IMDb entry is from 1984, so there you go.
At least you tried.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm. Episode 6, The Italian Caper. General Tucker comes to Walt with a mission. Terrorists led by Zialana had attacked an American convoy in Italy. Walt refuses. Tucker fakes a science fair trip to Italy. Walt and Matt reluctantly accept the obvious trick. By the way, we should probably have mentioned this in the beginning, but Walt is masquerading as a science teacher, which gives him constant vigilance over Matt, obviously.
Makes sense.
Totally.
Okay, question here.
Yeah.
He fakes a science fair trip to Italy?
He fakes a science fair trip to Italy.
I don't remember ever being in a science fair where I had to travel further than my own school. What type of science fair is this? I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, that's a rhetorical question.
Wait, you never had a science fair somewhere else?
No. The only science fairs I took part in were at my school.
Same here.
Wow.
But then again, I spent half of my life in DoD schools, and they do their best to shelter us.
Well, that makes sense. I guess the New York State school system is weird.
Well, it just sounds very weird. Oh, for a science fair, we're going to take a trip to Italy? Okay, now I can understand if it's like a state over or 2 states over, but you're going to another continent. Whatever. I don't get it. But hey, I'm going to just add this. Playing the role of Giancarlo in this episode is Michael Constantine, and his name will definitely come up in the future. He played Gus in the My Big Fat Greek Wedding series. Relevant to this podcast, he played Judge Matthew Sirota on the 70s sitcom Sirota's Court. And again, since everything goes back to Night Court, it's said that Sirota's Court was sort of a predecessor to Night Court.
I gotta say, when you said he played Gus, I thought you were gonna say he played Gus in the movie Gus.
No, he played Gus in the series of My Big Fat Greek Wedding Life, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
The My Big Fat Greek universe, basically.
Do you know what the movie Gus is about, Mike?
No.
It's a movie about a mule that kicks field goals.
God.
And Don Knotts is in it.
That movie. No, I don't remember the name, but yeah, I know there was a movie about a field goal kicking animal, and Don Knotts is in it because it's loony enough for Don Knotts to be in it.
And you can watch it on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. And another interesting name, Robert Davi.
Oh yes, that Robert Davi.
Yes, but Big Johnson from Die Hard.
One of the Fratellis in
Jake Fratelli from The Goonies.
He was Sanchez in License to Kill.
And he was Goran Vada in The Expendables 3. So yeah, a lot of things going on here. But it only got a 2.7, so we're not going to talk much about it.
No, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
To quote Mike Francesa, who cares?
Get lost. Episode 7. Winning. Football player Tony Garcia is interested in Pam, and Matt is jealous. Oh, we're back on Pam now.
Well, the title of this episode is Winning, so that's where Charlie Sheen got the title from his catchphrase from.
Okay. So Walt reluctantly allows Matt to join the football team. Matt and Tony get into a fight for position. And we have another Van Dyke in this episode. This time it's Barry Van Dyke, son of Dick Van Dyke.
I'm wondering if there's any temptation on Matthew's part to use some of his powers to help the football team win. Like, if he underthrows a pass by 20 yards, does it just somehow magically levitate to the receiver who's waiting in the end zone? Does he use his powers for good or evil in this case? I'm wondering.
Theoretically, he could use his powers, but I know Walt would probably be watching in the stands and be like, "Don't use your power, Matt. Don't use that power, Matt. Don't use that power."
Yeah, but you got to win over Pam. You don't want anybody infringing on your territory.
But Pam! What did I tell you, Matthew Starr? But Pam! But don't make me come down there.
You got to do it for love. He would do anything for love. He just wouldn't do that.
Like,
that's 13 years later. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like, but if I don't do this, I'm going to lose to a guy who's playing bit parts on Franklin and Bash.
Oh, we don't want that happening.
No.
Because Zach Morris is Bash.
Best of reel. There we go.
Oh my gosh. He went there.
He went there and we let him go there.
And he smashed it. Yes, beautiful.
My hat is off, Greg. Episode 8. Endurance. Walt and Coach Curtis lead the students on a camping trip in the hills. A park ranger tells them about two men who escaped from an insane asylum 8 months earlier. Unknown people are stalking the group. That is literally the capsule.
You haven't found these people in this forest in 8 months? You must not be doing a very good job. Plus, nobody's come to you and said, "Hey, these two weirdos, they were, stalking me in the campground. You need to go over here." I'm sorry.
It's 1982. Forensics has not been far enough advanced yet for them to figure out where people are.
Yeah, but people should see them sometime in 8 months instead of, "Oh, well, they escaped and we saw them in the park 8 months ago, and we're going to just shrug our shoulders like we know nothing."
Right. And you know who one of the men is?
Who?
Spencer Milligan, a.k.a. Rick Marshall from Land of the Lost.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he's been stuck in the forest for 8 months. He's really in the Land of the Lost.
Tell you what.
Jeez. I'm sorry.
Tell you what. He's no Timothy Bottoms. Chico got it.
Because they played the same character on different runs of Land of the Lost.
Yes.
And he also played George Bush in Previous Entry. That's my Bush.
Yeah. He was also the mysterious loser.
Oh, he's no Beans Morocco either.
Anyway, episode 9, The Triangle.
Oh, this is the big one, because the director
This is the Wham episode here.
Yes.
It's Pam's birthday. Bad news arrives. Her beloved Uncle Ron has gone missing during a treasure hunt. Pam initiates her own mission, and Matt reluctantly joins her.
I'm sorry. I was just ready. Did somebody say treasure hunt?
Oh, no.
Where's Jeff Edwards?
He's
dead and we miss him.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about 1982.
He would have been doing treasure hunt, and
yeah.
Starcade would have come shortly after that.
Yeah, Emil Arturi's probably somewhere. Oh, and the director of this episode, guys. This is the big one, okay?
Okay.
Directing this episode, Leonard Nimoy. Yes. Now remember, 1982, so Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan would have just happened. And remember...
He also directed that, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Nicholas Meyer directed that.
Okay.
Because, and you probably know what Nicholas Meyer directed right after. That's a pun because he directed the day after.
And also he directed the aforementioned Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell and David Warner.
But if you remember in Star Trek II, Spock's character dies at the end of the movie.
Yes.
And then he directs Star Trek 3 and 4. And of course, Star Trek 3, he comes back.
Yeah.
In Star Trek 3.
Hard to believe that anything could be made to look like the Bermuda Triangle. But bless him, he makes it work.
Oh, and we should also mention, if you're done talking about Leonard Nimoy, in this episode playing Nyan, not Nyan Cat, not that cat that has rainbow shooting outs, but playing Nyan is Julie Newmar, Catwoman.
What?
Yeah, and here's the thing. Walt immediately recognizes Nyan and her companion Vol as members of the Quadrian Court.
What the hell is the Quadrian Court?
It's the court on Quadris, obviously. They are and the explanation is, Nyan explains that they are the messengers promised in Ehawk's 15th year, and Walt confirms this, telling Matt when they did not come, he chose not to worry. But they did come, and because Matthew's father is killed, therefore Matthew is made king of Quadris. And he takes the Creed of Kings, and Walt picks up the ceremony where Vol is unable to finish. Matt pulls the crystal from the heart of the Kashat and holds it up to the firelight, mesmerized as he's made king of Quadris. Now, the Kashat was supposed to be a birthday present to Pam, because nothing says I love you than an alien artifact from your own planet. Well, right? So yeah, those two were Julie Newmar as an alien. Why not? She can play a robot. That's a future entry, by the way. Episode 10. Mother. This is the Wham episode, y'all. This is the Wham episode. Now that Matt and Pam are 1982 Instagram official, they go to the carnival, where a fortune teller has a mysterious message for both of them. Matt has a premonition of danger and goes to the carnival to save Walt, and Pam insists on joining him. Now, interesting thing about the fortune teller is Matt's mother.
What?
The fortune teller is Matthew Starr's mother.
But isn't his mother dead?
Apparently, we thought she was dead. We know his father's dead because last episode. But his mother was apparently on the run from Quadris, searching the galaxy for Matthew Starr.
What are the odds that she ends up not even in the same planet as Matthew Starr, but they run into each other at a carnival?
What?
That's a little goofy.
Yeah, that is goofy. And she's played by Trisha O'Neill, of all people?
Yeah. Man. It's
Who
been
played Woman in Titanic.
Woman in Titanic.
And Captain Rachel Garrett on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Okay.
Because it all comes back
Yeah.
to TNG.
Yeah. What is it with shows that I'm following this week with carnivals? Considering I just watched the latest episode of WandaVision at the time of recording this. There's a carnival.
Hey, Greg, save that for the next Presents, why don't you?
Yeah, I'll save that for 2 weeks from now, but I will say, Kat Dennings, woo!
Kat Dennings, what a clown. Anyway.
We forgot to mention who wrote this episode.
Who wrote this episode?
Walter Koenig.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Walter Koenig. Chekhov.
Yes. So second straight episode with a Star Trek connection. And obviously, there's a Star Trek connection with Harv Bennett producing this, so.
Yeah. Episode 11, Experiments. The class goes on a field trip to Marine Park. They're guided by leading scientist Dr. Bernard, and Matt hears a plea for help from a dolphin. It's basically Free Willy, only it's a dolphin instead of an orca.
What? Is this like the Free Wilsiak episode of South Park?
Probably. And you know who else is in it? Clyde Kusatsu.
Oh, yes! I was actually looking up his name, and really the best way to describe him is he's that Asian actor from that show. It seems like when there's an Asian role that needs to be played, you call Clyde Kusatsu.
Yep. Known as Principal Shimada from Family Matters.
Oh, that guy!
Yeah, that guy. It's like, you don't know who Principal Shimada from Family Matters is? Shame. Episode 12, Fugitives. Dr. Lindsay is testing his new thermal-magnetic scanner. Candy Striper Pam pushes Matt to get scanned. Walt is concerned about being discovered and manages to erase the data. Walt falls into a mysterious coma and gets sent to the hospital.
Yeah, you don't want them finding out about your secrets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing of it is, the sort of trigger was a mysterious bacteria that his quadrilled immune system is not used to. I could make a comment here, but I'm not going to.
We should mention, though, that this is episode 12. This is the last episode of essentially the first format of the series.
Yeah.
Because we have changes that are going to come up on episode 13, but also there's an over 1 month break between these two episodes. This episode aired on December 17th of 1982, and it came back with episode 13 on the 21st of January, 1983. So maybe your focus group said something about how to improve the show, and so we're going to go in a totally different direction, ?
We're going to go for a more action-adventure. None of this high drama crap. But I like high drama. So, oh boy. Oh god. Insert your own joke here for episode 13's title. Matthew Starr, DOA.
Yeah, that's what this show was after it got canceled.
Major Wymore takes over from General Tucker and sends the guys on a mission. Matthew has new powers, Pam is no longer on the show, and he asks out hottie Carrie Saxon. I guess in that month between the last episode and this episode, he breaks up with Pam, gains full maturity and new powers, and apparently has a new boss that appears out of nowhere.
Seems feasible.
Yeah.
And actually, one person who guest stars on this episode, and this name, it might be familiar. Molly Cheek.
From It's Gary Shandling Show.
From It's Gary Shandling Show, absolutely. And also a future installment, but also an installment we talked about for the video game show that we did back in December. Family Dog.
Nice. Another noted thespian on this episode, David Paymer from Get Shorty and the American President.
That David Paymer?
That David Paymer.
Hey, do you know what else David Paymer was in?
Star Trek Picard.
Not that too, but you know what else he was in?
What else was he in?
He was in No Holds Barred, where he played one of Kurt Fuller's evil henchmen.
Suck it! This is true. This is all true. Next episode 14, The Racer's Edge. Caroline Ashley is a hard-charging motocross racer. Her father is a high-ranking State Department official in delicate negotiations. Wymore tasks the guys to protect her from international terrorist Lloyd Stickland. By the way, Caroline Ashley, played by Duran Clark. Not much known about her. except she was in The Warriors.
Oh, but another guest on this episode, and we've mentioned him in the past, playing Burnside, Joel Brooks.
Right.
My Sister Sam played Pyramid quite often in the 80s.
Oh, and Joel Brooks was a guest star on previous installment, We Got It Made.
Awesome. Episode 15. Dead Man Tanned. Wymore sends the guys to Las Vegas to investigate crime boss Dan Beats. They infiltrate the casino, which Beats uses to corrupt public officials.
Oh, no.
In case it's not obvious by now, this show has taken a hard right turn into Mission Impossible territory.
On this episode, it seems like every time we talk about an episode in this series, hey, there's somebody who we recognize. This time, playing Wolfson, it's Raymond St. Jacques. And you're like, well, who's Raymond St. Jacques? Well, dang it, he played Judge Clayton C. Thomas on future installment Superior Court.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, wow.
Think personal injury court, but not as fake.
No, yeah, basically. Oh, you know who played a technician on this episode? Joe Howard! George Franklin.
Oh.
Yeah! Oh my gosh! Yeah, I'm looking at the picture now. Yeah, that's George Franklin, son of a gun.
Yep. Episode 16. 36 hours. Parkland Space Center takes over guidance control for the space shuttle landing. Terrorists attack and steal the guidance module. The center has 36 hours to recover the module before the shuttle crashes. Wymore calls in his boys Matt and Walt. Because of course he does. Episode 17. The Quadrine Caper. Wymore has a personal mission. His nephew had borrowed a diamond necklace from a safety deposit box to save his animal shelter. Newly released criminal Deke Griffin joins his late partner's daughter, Donna, to break into the bank vault. Deke Griffin, by the way, played by Dennis Lipscomb, who is known as Watson in War Games. Yeah, and he also played a judge in the short-lived The Guardian. His daughter Donna was played by Laura Johnson, who is known as that lady from That Thing. Alice's mom in the Fame movie reboot from 2009.
Okay.
And Wymore's nephew is Gary Imhoff, who, yeah, not much is known about that guy. Yeah, let's move on, shall we? Episode 18. Brain Drain. Brilliant minds have been defecting to unfriendly countries. Oh gosh, welcome to the 80s, folks. Wymore sends the guys to investigate missing scientist Pierce Benton. Pierce has found love with a computer dating service. Weston uses beautiful women to drug the genius men.
This is the episode I saw when I was in the hospital.
Oh, so this is the episode that made you think that you were in a fever dream.
This is the episode which I thought was some sort of hallucination inspired by very heavy doses of antibiotics. Yes. And really, when I saw this episode, now, mind you, I had gotten surgery pretty much like 48 hours earlier, actually less than that. And again, I was on heavy doses of very strong antibiotics. This was on at like 5 a.m. at that point. And I'm like, okay, what is the point of this? What's the plot? It seemed rather stupid.
You know what your problem is? You caught it at the tail end of the series instead of the beginning.
Well, then that may very well be a great point, but it was just very weird, and really Matthew Starr didn't use many of his powers in this episode. There's two that come to mind. One was he was playing cards with Walt, and he turned all of Walt's cards blank for whatever reason. Again, I was heavily dosed on antibiotics at that time. But also, second, in the with the dating company, Matthew used his powers, his telepathy powers, to mysteriously grab a file from what would you call it? The
file cabinet.
The file, yeah, it was more or less like a file cabinet.
It was a computer. It would have to be a computerized file cabinet because it's a computerized dating service.
Well, no, it could be computer cards, but the thing is, he uses telepathy to grab this file from not a normal filing cabinet. I would almost equate it to like when you go to the doctor or a dentist, where it's like an open file cabinet with all like the first letters of the client's name on the folder. You know what I'm talking about. You're a pro in the business.
Yeah.
It was those types of file cabinets. It wasn't like your file cabinet you might see in an office where you have to hold down a button and then open the drawer.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so those are the only powers I remember seeing being used. So it's like, why is it called the powers of Matthew Starr if, okay, one is to deceive your guardian playing cards, and the other is just to be sneaky to grab a file while a secretary is at work at this dating company service.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Now you can see why I thought this is one giant fever dream back in October.
Oh, it's about to get crazy. We're about to venture into crazy town here.
Oh, no.
Episode 19, The Great Waldo Shepherd. The plane is stolen to be used for gun running. Unbeknownst to the criminals, they've also stolen a briefcase full of NATO secrets. The only clue is a patch for Lucky Lindy Air Show. Matt and Walt infiltrate the air show as the new wing walker. So apparently his new powers involve wing walking.
Yeah, it seems like the last half of these episodes, they've sort of doubled down on the goofiness.
Yeah.
Maybe not goofiness, maybe I should say absurdity.
Absurdity.
Yeah.
It's basically, okay, what sort of hijinks can we put Matt and Walt in week after week instead of, story development? You remember story development, right?
Yes.
It's like, I bet during one of these missions, Matt's just looking at Walt and Walt's just looking at Matt and he's thinking, why are we even here? Didn't I used to go to high school?
Maybe he was Beans Baxter 5 years early.
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry, just had to throw that out there.
Episode 20. The Road Rebels. A warehouse is robbed. Wymore suspects a gang of youths with inside police info. Wymore sends in Walt as a cop, and Matt goes undercover as a violent criminal. An interesting name that appears in this episode is John Grise, who you remember from the first 2 seasons of Martin and also Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes, he was Uncle Rico.
Yep.
Oh. If Coach had put him in the fourth quarter, they would have been Saint champs, no doubt.
Yep. Episode 21, which, for all intents and purposes, is the last episode, for all intents and purposes. Swords and Quests. Does this remind you of anything? A toy company sponsors a Swords and Quests game with sinister motives. Unbeknownst to the gamers, one of the players is killed. Matt is eager to join and replaces the missing player. Walt is suspicious and investigates.
I want to add, and this is something I noticed and told both Chico and Greg about before we recorded the show. If you look at the ratings for each individual episode of this series, every single episode has no more, actually less, I should say, than 4 stars out of 10 on IMDb. This episode has an 8.4 out of 10 rating.
Well, who directed this episode, Mike?
Well, that's a good point. I was also going to say since this is technically the last episode, maybe everybody was just so happy that it's gone forever.
Well,
but directing the episode,
yes,
say it, Greg. This is great.
Lou Gossett Jr. directed the episode.
He's like, screw this. I'm going to show you all how it's done.
That's why it's rated 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
Well, also, I made the connection earlier talking about swords and quests. Boy, that sounds an awful lot like something that was very hot in the early 80s. Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh,
Does this remind you of anything?
Yeah. I think Gary Gygax would have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Gary.
I bet you, though, the kids from Stranger Things loved this episode.
Probably.
Maybe they gave it the 8.4 stars. Who knows?
Maybe the grown-up versions of the kids from Stranger Things at this point were like giving this 8.4. Maybe this is what inspired them.
Maybe.
Who knows? For some reason, the original pilot was the last aired episode.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Let's go out with a bang.
Here we go.
Or a whimper.
Or a... Episode 22, Star Night. Matthew is an orphan who lives with Max, the handyman at his high school. His classmates know him as David. One morning, his school bus careens out of control. Matthew emits a mysterious glow and stops the bus just before it plunges off a cliff. Later in the science class, he again begins manifesting telekinetic powers until Max distracts the class. Friday evening, Matthew has dinner with his girlfriend and her parents. After dinner, he suddenly begins hearing his parents' thought and pleas. She follows him, and when they kiss, his powers manifest again, kinky, affecting her in some mysterious way. Matthew runs again, shattering store windows and inflicting other damage, returning home. Max calls him son, but Matthew rebukes him. Saturday night, Matthew attends a father-son school dinner alone. A prank by Scotty results in a massive fire, and Max, whom Scotty called in, becomes trapped. Matthew telekinetically frees the trapped attendees and returns to rescue Max. He introduces Max to his girlfriend's father as his dad. Meanwhile, a mysterious government agent who witnessed Matthew's arrival on Earth 15 years earlier is closing in.
And none of that matters because that all gets ignored in the series.
Yes.
Yeah, the only thing of value in this episode, at least in my opinion, is who played the coach in this episode. And I'm going to assume it's a basketball coach because once you hear the name, you should make the connection. And apparently, according to IMDb, this is his only credit outside of a couple of very famous commercials from the 80s.
Who would that be?
Tommy Heinsohn, who is a Hall of Fame basketball player and coach, played for the Celtics, and actually his number 15 got retired by the Celtics and recently passed away, unfortunately, back in November of 2020.
Yeah.
Very sad.
But absolute, when I saw that, it's like, Tommy Heinsohn, what has he done? Because he would have been associated with the NBA on CBS at that point, but also he had been associated with the Celtics since back in his playing days. We're talking the late 50s.
And he was also a coach on the Celtics. I believe he was the coach of the 76 team that won the title over Phoenix.
If I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, he was definitely coach. The 76 team that beat Phoenix. Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like his last year's coach was 78, which would have been right before they drafted one certain Larry Bird.
Yeah, because Bill Fitch, I believe, would have taken over right after that. And then Casey Jones in the mid-'80s.
Yeah, because Bill Fitch would have been with the
Rockets
Cavs up until that point. No, he was with the Cavs first because he was the original coach of the Cavs up until, I believe, about 78, 79. And he got swiped up really fast, and he ended up at New Jersey with the Nets and many places. Truly a legend among coaches, even though he's not a big name.
And he coached the Twin Towers when they played the Celtics in '86 of Samson Olajuwon.
Yeah, and also, again, another Hall of Famer.
An interesting note about this episode, of which there is little interesting. A little girl is played by Amy D'Souza, who is the daughter of series creator Steven D'Souza.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it is. So, what happened?
Well, as I said earlier, it was a dream of mine. A little too much heavy antibiotics, and you totally space out at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Okay, maybe that's not it.
Maybe. But I'm looking at this show, and I'm sort of reminded of what happened with Super Train, in that it took a hard right into Crazy Town midway through, after a whole corporate meddling. Do I want to say corporate meddling? I'll say corporate meddling. There was some corporate meddling, and it just took a hard right into, okay, we did the show your way, now we're going to do the show our way, because your way isn't getting ratings. Just so happens that their way also was not getting ratings. An interesting thing, the show has a bit of a legacy. The Powers of Matthew Starr actually ranked on TV Guide's 50 worst shows of all time, number 22.
Is this the same list that had the Ropers on it?
Probably.
Oh, yeah, because, according to them, the Ropers was the 49th worst show of all time. Yeah, my ass, it was the 49th worst show of all time. But the Powers of Matthew Starr, yeah, that deserves to be on the 22nd worst show of all time. I don't care.
There you go. Just, gosh.
And I think we should add, it's actually in reruns now. That's how I saw it, because it actually airs on MeTV.
MeTV at like 5 or 6 in the morning on Sundays.
Yeah, again, Insomniac Theater, or in my case, if you can't fall asleep because of surgery you had a couple days earlier.
There you go.
So, taking a look at the competition that was it was up against, it aired 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock Eastern on Friday nights. And there was a little show that aired on CBS at that time called The Dukes of Hazzard.
Ooh.
Yeah. And ABC at that time looked like it was just more or less putting in shows. They were showing different movies, and actually the first week it was up against some sort of special with Miss Piggy. But it wasn't. It was sort of dead from the beginning. But then ABC, later in that 82-83 season, they put Benson in at 8 o'clock.
Oh yeah, that'll
do it. And surprisingly, what aired at 9 o'clock on NBC right after The Powers of Matthew Starr, a beloved show that had a decent run, Knight Rider.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that would have been it. What was it? Its second season?
It would have. I think it would have just debuted, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I thought 82 would be the first season of Knight Rider.
Just double check.
Yeah, that would be the first season of Knight Rider, which basically substitutes Matthew Starr for David Hasselhoff and Walt Shepard for a talking car.
Oh, yeah. Because, honestly, let's be honest, people want to see William Daniels as a talking car. That's what people want to see.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, but they missed out on Louis Gossett Jr.
Well,
Louis Gossett Jr., he's okay.
Hey, he got an Oscar for...
He got an Oscar. He got an Oscar. What more does he have to prove?
No, nothing.
No, nothing. Absolutely not.
And he got Iron Eagle later.
Oh, God. Yep. And Enemy Mine. Can we talk about Enemy Mine again?
Yeah. Be much better than talking about The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Yeah.
And you know what else Luke Gossett has done?
What?
He signed cards in Americana. He had trading cards in Americana.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he did.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, no. What are you
No.
doing?
No. I know what you're thinking. The answer is no.
Oh, thank God.
Good.
Because
No,
honestly, what could you find for that sort of thing?
No, I was just making the connection that I thought Louis Gossett Jr. had a card in that series.
Yeah.
And actually, I think somewhere in my collection, I have a swatch card of his from
I
the
did.
Americana series.
I do think I did get a swatch of his from Americana like years ago that's in one of my binders.
Yeah, I think I pulled one from one of the boxes of Americana that I purchased, again, like 14 years ago at this point.
And I think I only bought that as a gag because my brother loves Iron Eagle so much.
Hey, Iron Eagle made Lou Gossett Jr.'s career, okay?
No, An Officer and a Gentleman did.
No.
Being an Americana did. Just admit it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what do we have to say about The Powers of Matthew Starr?
The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Hey, Harv Bennett produced it.
Walter Koenig wrote an episode.
Leonard Nimoy directed an episode.
Lou Gossett directed another episode. And put it all together, you know what you have? You have a thing on TV.
I also think you have empirical evidence that apparently I didn't have a fever dream.
Well, you'd be the first. Or the last. Or however. But, again, Powers of Matthew Starr, if you are so interested, it actually airs on MeTV in your local area, if I'm not mistaken, at 6:30 in the morning on Saturdays.
They changed time slots.
Let me
Wow.
check. Maybe in your area. I gotta check my area.
Well, while Greg checks that out, it's also available on DVD.
Yeah.
The whole series was released on DVD in 2018, for better or for worse.
Okay, The Powers of Matthew Starr, at least here in New York, airs on the MeTV affiliate at 6 in the morning on Sundays.
Okay, so it's 6 in the morning. Yep, it airs at 6 in the morning here too. Because we get MeTV on oh my God, it airs right before Saved by the Bell.
What a great combination.
No.
You get Lou Gossett Jr., and then you get Zach Morris.
Who is trash.
Who is trash, as we've already mentioned. And he's also Bash.
He's trash and bash.
To think, that guy goes on to be the governor of California.
Yeah. I'm looking at this MeTV Saturday morning schedule, and it's basically Saturday morning fever dreams all day. You wake up with Saved by the Bell, you go to bed with Columbo. With Peter Falk as Columbo. It's good stuff.
Wow!
I got nowhere else to go! I got nowhere else to go! I got nothing else.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Remember, chicken and stovetop stuffing in my house.
6 o'clock.
Pete, want a clove of chicken and stovetop tonight? With celery and onions?
What time?
7.
How about 8?
Sure.
You can never get enough stovetop stuffing instead of potatoes.
Honey, the DP exercise equipment's all on sale. And you should work off some of that weight you put on during the holidays.
What? I was on a diet the whole time.
What diet?
The seafood diet. You see food, you eat it.
Monday, learn to meet more women from the man who wrote the book.
Maybe you can help me out here. I seem to have lost all the feeling in my lips.
It's an all-new Fresh Prince. Then it's a dream come true for Blossom.
Who are you? I'm your fairy godmother, doofus.
Rhea Perlman guest stars on an all-new Blossom right after the Fresh Prince on NBC Monday.
Friday.
Voyage, Adderley.
Adderley's continental vacation becomes a gamble when events take a deadly turn. Larry Wilcox guest stars Friday on Adderley.
Have you ever wanted to follow in the footsteps of Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe, or Nero Wolfe?
Yeah.
Are you searching for an exciting, demanding career as a big city private eye?
Exactly.
Well, look no further. Margaret Colin.
Yeah.
You're going to love her legwork. Coming soon to CBS.
Hello, I'm Larry Bud Melman with a
about moving bus lines, just for you kids. But I hope you enjoy doing that. Hey, meet me, Dad. That would be exciting, wouldn't it? Think about it, kids. Go to Moving Buses and meet my son. That's right.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby of Broadway. The hickory and ballyhoo.
The lullaby of Broadway.
And in the center of it all
is the Milford Plaza.
Stay at the Milford Plaza Hotel with cocktail, dinner, and breakfast for $46 per person. Discover why we are the lullaby of Broadway.
The Milford Plaza is the lullaby of all Broadway.
So, we asked some of today's leading wine experts to give their opinion on a whole new taste in wine. Lancer's Blush Wine. Superb color.
Oh, splendid clarity.
Excellent nose.
Lancer's Blush Wine.
Oh, excuse me.
What?
This wine is fruity, light, crisp,
light,
pretty.
Ah, pretty.
At last I have found my wine. It's good.
Good. Lancer's Blush?
Okay, superb.
Ah, superb. Yes.
What's America's favorite way to fry? Wesson. Vegetable, corn, and sunflower oils. 3 all-natural ways to fry right.
My fried chicken's gotta be crispy and juicy, and my oil's gotta be Wesson vegetable oil.
What could be better? Good food and the goodness of corn oil. Wesson corn oil.
Eating light is right.
And today's light dishes taste great with Wesson sunflower oil.
Wesson vegetable, corn, and sunflower oil. With every bite, you know you're frying right.
We're watching Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart, and William Holden.
Did you know Pizza Hut has a great offer on Igloo jugs? Buy a pizza to go and you can get this nifty half-gallon jug for just $1.99. Then, all summer long, when you come back for a pizza to go, they'll fill it up with a soft drink for free. This is Al, an archaeologist. Al has a jug that costs
$93,000.
Did that include free soft drink fill-ups?
Well, no.
Don't you make the same mistake. Free soft drink fill-ups in an Igloo jug for $1.99 all summer long at Pizza Hut.
Episode 139, submission number 1911, To Tell the Truth, the 1980 version. To Tell the Truth 80 aired in syndication from September 8th, 1980 to June 12th, 1981 for 39 weeks of episodes.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is David Swerdlow.
Number 2.
My name is David Swerdlow.
And number 3.
My name is David Swerdlow.
Only one of these people is the real David Swerdlow and has sworn to tell the truth. Author, columnist, and critic Rex Reed. Psychotherapist and writer for Glamour magazine, Stephanie Cook. The host of TV's The Match Game, Gene Rayburn. The star of musical comedy, films, and stage, Sally Ann Howes. That's our panel. And here's the host of To Tell the Truth, Robin Ward.
To Tell the Truth is, for all intents and purposes, a classic. One of those panel games that stands the test of time, as evidenced by the current panel on ABC Tuesday nights. And I'll tell you right now, say what you will, but that show is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you can keep This Is Us. I'm watching To Tell the Truth on Tuesdays.
Yeah. You're watching it for Anthony Anderson, baby.
Damn right! And his mama! Don't forget his mama. But they didn't have Anthony Anderson in 1980. No. They didn't have Alex Trebek in 1980. They didn't even have Lynn Swann in 1980.
No,
and I'm guessing Bud Collier's long since dead.
Yeah. Lynn Swann would probably be still playing for the Steelers, I think.
Yes. And Gordon Elliott would still be in was it Australia? He would still be not in America right now.
No, he had been in Australia, I believe, yes.
Yeah, he'd be in Australia. So, who did they get to host To Tell the Truth? Robin Ward? Who'd that guy be? No, seriously.
Canadian. He did hosting gigs in Canada. He's not a nobody necessarily. Maybe a nobody to America, but he had some hosting gigs in Canadian land.
Well, he did have hosting in Canada. Here's the thing. He was an entertainment reporter, a weatherman, and was on The Guiding Light? What? He was on The Guiding Light?
Well, apparently, Wikipedia says so.
He was on my stories, y'all.
Yeah, but besides To Tell the Truth, really the only game show that he was known for was, and this actually is a Canadian classic, called Guess What? It ran for 4 years. Yeah, guess what? It was a trivia game show with families, like 3 family members, and it was basically a giant multiple choice quiz. They had like 6 choices to begin with, and you just like went from player to player on alternating teams until somebody got it right for a lowering number of points. And it's very Canadian, let's just say that.
It's not as Canadian as Just Like Mom and Dad, but yeah.
But no, anybody who grew up in Canada in the mid-'80s or even had access, because we could pull in some TV stations from Canada, from Windsor and London. And yeah, it was definitely a thing that I saw back in the mid-'80s off the rabbit ears.
Okay, well, the game itself is as it always has, and that would be 3 people assuming the identity of one central figure who is sworn to tell the truth. And the panel has to figure out who's telling the truth and who are the 2 imposters. Seriously, it's classic. It's not hard to figure out. But this game had a bit of a twist, and I believe it's the first time that To Tell the Truth was actually twisted.
Well, depending on what your definition of twisted is. Late in the CBS run, the original run in the late 60s, they actually introduced audience voting, and they would have a 5th vote in effect towards the result.
Ah.
So that might be the only deviation, at least in the first, 25 years of the series, 23 years of the series?
Yeah, we have all that, but on this version, there was an extra game. Because there was time for 2 games, and then there was a 3rd bonus game. And this would be the first time that it was ever introduced in the format, called the one-on-one game, where the imposters from both games played against each of the panelists. Because one of the 4 imposters had another story. Panelists asked a series of questions to the imposter directly across from them, hence the name, one-on-one, and after 20 seconds, they had to guess whether or not the story belonged to that imposter.
You know who I bet loved this segment?
Who?
Hall & Oates. Get it? Because they had a song called One-on-One.
Yeah.
And we should add that in the 1990 version, there was a segment called One-on-One, but it was totally different. It was played with one audience member, and actually the announcer, Burton Richardson, sort of hosted this segment, or at least was like holding the microphone for the audience player. And they just had to decide if a certain person was either profession A or had a secret A or had secret B for, I believe it was $500.
Yes. And it was played for $500 here, too. Well, up to $500. Because each incorrect vote was worth $100 to the team, and a complete stump of the panel was worth $500 to the team. And that was basically the show. You had the panel, you had the games. It was all very much aplomb, but they sexed it up for the post-disco 1980s.
Yeah, you had a lot of red and you had a lot of flashing lights.
And the cool neon glow of the logo.
Oh, that's nice. Yes.
I love that logo.
That is a very slick logo. Very 80s, or early 80s, I should say.
The only
but
thing,
it's a very slick logo.
Oh, yeah. The only thing you were missing was some sort of little, you can't see this because I'm on Zoom, but that thing. You know what that thing is. The classic finger cross. But then again, it's 1980. You don't need that much.
Well, also, I think they're going for something a little different, a little new, a little fresher. And this is definitely a deviation from the 70s version, which would have been canceled, for lack of a better word, 2 years earlier, because it ended in 78 with Joe Garagiola.
Yeah, and the people who were behind the 70s version were behind this one. You had Gil Bates as executive producer, and it was all centered around New York. They shot it at NBC. It was basically the same show, only a lot less blue and a whole lot more red.
And the announcer for this version of To Tell the Truth
Which
was
I
the announcer
alluded.
on the final season of the 70s version, Alan Coulter.
The first half of the season, anyway. The second was actually announced by Bill Wendell.
Oh, that's right. So you had both Letterman announcers on this version.
Both Letterman announcers.
Big red, love it.
Only in this case, it was reversed. Bill Wendell appraised Alan Coulter as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
I guess Bill Wendell needed something to do after Dave's morning show got canceled.
Well, he couldn't do Las Vegas Gambit.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. It's Las Vegas Gambit show. On NBC. Anyway.
Hey, no more about Harv Bennett. Oh, I mean Harv Mann, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, who were the panelists on this show? Because you had, like, a whole bunch of people who were, known commodities in the game show world. But at the same time, you sort of had people who may have been on the up-and-coming, let's see. And you also had people who were, because it's To Tell the Truth, you have the New York social scene, let's say.
Yeah.
Like, the pilot, the panel was Pat Collins, John Wade, Stephanie Cook, and Joel Siegel. Now, I know who Joel Siegel is.
Yes. Legendary film critic for ABC.
Yes. Pat Collins, I
believe she was a gossip columnist. I think she worked at WWOR.
Yeah, she was an entertainment editor and film critic for WWOR, and she won 2 local Emmys. And John Wade, if I'm not mistaken, is an author. No.
I think he's a newscaster.
Yeah, John Wade was a radio personality in Pittsburgh, I believe.
Yeah, and he was on the regular series.
Yeah.
About Pat Collins?
Yeah.
Her husband, and this is a name, and I know a lot of people know who this name is, Joe Raposo.
Oh, I know who Joe Raposo is.
Yeah, he did like all the music for Sesame Street in the 70s and 80s.
And, of course, I believe wrote the song It's in Every One of Us.
Yeah, renowned composer. I mean, hasn't been with us for over 30
Rainbow
years.
Connection. God, I love it. One of his best songs, The First Time It Happens, for the Great Muppet Caper.
Oh, he did all the good music, yes. The Rainbow Connection, It Ain't Easy Being Green, C is for Cookie. Oh, my gosh. Classics, at least from my childhood.
And the fourth chair was Stephanie Cook, who was a New York-based author. So this is basically very highbrow, but with chasing lights all over the place. But lest you think it's totally highbrow, here's the first week of panelists. Pat Collins was brought in, and John Wade was brought in, and then you have Nipsey Russell.
Oh, yeah. Nipsey Russell.
My man!
Yep. He told some great poems.
Oh, yeah. And Also, Margaret Trudeau.
Oh, yeah, because you know who her famous son is.
That would be Justin Trudeau, the current Prime Minister of Canada.
Yes, because she was married to Pierre Trudeau, who, back then, was the current Prime Minister of Canada.
And I bet you Robin and Margaret shared stories between the breaks.
Yeah.
All right, week 2 was Joel Siegel, Jean Marsh, noted British thespian.
One note about Jean Marsh is she played Sarah Kingdom on Doctor Who in the William Hartnell 12-part epic serial, The Daleks' Master Plan, back in 1965.
Gene Rayburn, who would be doing the match game in syndication at the time.
Yes.
And the Grande Dame of To Tell the Truth. And if you don't know who this lady is, what podcast are you even listening to?
Well, if you don't know who she is, you can go to hell.
Kitty Carlisle, come on!
Kitty Carlisle, the great Kitty Carlisle.
Oh, God. Again, the Grande Dame of To Tell the Truth. The only person who was on every version of To Tell the Truth from its inception to 2002. The only reason why she was not on the panel with Anthony Anderson is because she would have been dead for 9 years. We haven't perfected the cyborg technology yet.
Well, we've tried getting that technology to work, Chico. Let's remember the episode of The Simpsons titled Bart Gets Famous. You did have the vivacious head of Kitty Carlisle on the panel of Match Game 2034.
Nice.
Hi, everybody. Let's start the game.
Ah! Knocks over the vivacious head and it breaks.
Oh, dear.
I didn't do it.
Only I may dance.
Oh, another Conan O'Brien reference. Nicely done.
There you go. Week 3 has Rex Reed, Stephanie Cook, Gene Rayburn, and Sally Ann Howes, another noted British thespian, who... okay. She was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in 1968 as Truly Scrumptious.
Well, this was a Cubby Broccoli production, so you know he loved those pun names involving... Yeah.
And of course, Rex Reed, again, the poor man's Joel Siegel. What can I say?
Hey, Rex Reed, a legend. But, you know, just keep him away from Jay Sherman if he wants the co-host gig.
Oh, no. And also keep him away from the tobacco. Week 4, we have the return of Nipsey Russell and the return of Kitty Carlisle. We also have Gordon Jump, and yeah, you know Gordon Jump. He would have been doing WKRP at the time.
Also,
he owned a bicycle shop on Different Strokes.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that!
Hey, stay the hell away from that bike shop.
And model and actress from Montreal, Tew Leek.
Well, and around that time, she would have been a co-host on That's My Line, the Bob Barker sort of take on Real People. And
oh,
That's
yeah.
Incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, because at this time, everybody was trying to sort of get around the whole Actors Guild strike. So we have Real People on NBC, That's Incredible on ABC, and That's My Line on CBS. 2 of these shows would go on to long and fruitful lives. 1 second, CBS.
Well, the most memorable thing that came out of That's My Line was that 1 segment with the amazing Randy.
I remember that segment.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is a great segment. Yes.
I'm going to put that on the list. I'm going to put that.
I think it might already be on there.
Okay, That's My Line might already be on the list, but
yeah.
Week 5, Nipsey Russell, Pat Collins, Kitty Carlisle, and in seat 3, Soupy Sales. Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg.
Yeah.
Here's got a great take out business.
Oh, he's got a great take out business. Take out business.
and Mike's just shaking his head like.
I saw it coming from a mile away, and you still did it. No.
Yeah. Gotta give the people what they want. Week 6, Soupy Sales returns, and 3 new faces to this version. We have Peggy Cass. If you don't know who Peggy Cass is, what podcast you can something to? Fanny Flagg, who would, of course, be known as an actress and author at this time. And a man whose 101st birthday was yesterday as we record this. The one, the only, William Lawrence Francis Cullen.
Oh, yeah. We covered his 100th birthday last year. But yeah.
Week 7, we have the return of John Wade and Bill Cullen. We would also have Polly Bergen returning after a long absence. And a new face on the panel, Susan Lucci.
Oh, yeah. And if you don't know who Susan Lucci is, are you alive? Are you under a rock? What? Come on.
Come on. Talk to me here. You obviously need to know something.
Yeah, you never watched All My Children. You don't know.
Week 8, Soupy Sales and Peggy Cass return with Jay Johnson and Lynn Redgrave. I believe this would be one of Lynn Redgrave's first panel shows, or first game show appearances.
Yeah.
Because, she lived on the Pyramid set.
Yeah, and we already talked about her on Go.
Mm-hmm. And Jay Johnson...
he was high on soap at the time.
And I was about to say, he was on soap at the time.
Yeah, soap would have been going into its final season at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, week 9, my man, Nipsey, and Kitty, and we have 2 new faces, Rita Moreno, who, come on, needs no introduction.
What hasn't she done?
What hasn't she done? She's still doing stuff.
She's an EGOT winner.
She's an EGOT. She was Justina Machado's mama on One Day at a Time. Come on. And Dick Van Patten, who would be 2 years removed from 8 is Enough and another 7 years before Spaceballs.
Don't ask why Spaceballs was released 4 years after Return of the Jedi, people.
Hey, genius takes time. What I'm looking for is the sequel, The Search for More Money.
Oh, we've been waiting for that for like 34 years. Come on. Someone has to write a Spaceballs sequel. We need that money.
You're killing me, Smalls. Okay, week 10. Soupy Sales, John Wade, and Pat Collins are joined by Lainey O'Grady, who would also be 2 years removed from 8 is Enough. Week 11, Soupy Sales, Fanny Flagg, and Peggy Cass would be joined by Robert Mandan, who, of course, would be doing soap at this time.
Yep, Chester
Tate. Week 12, we have Nipsey Russell, Lynn Redgrave, Gordon Jump, and Kitty Carlisle. Vivacious head and all. Week 13, Bill Cullen, T.U. Leak, John Wade, and Peggy Cass. Week 14, Bill Cullen, Pat Collins, and Polly Bergen would be joined by Dick Clark. That was a surprise for me. A welcome surprise, but a surprise nonetheless. I know you would be doing Pyramid, but I don't think I've ever seen Dick Clark do a Goodson Todman show.
Well, he did host Missing Links, back in the 60s.
Oh, that's probably why, because I haven't seen that show.
But yeah, he would have been doing $50,000 Pyramid at this time. Former subject of this very podcast.
Yes. Week 15, we have Soupy Sales, Lynn Redgrave, and Kitty Carlisle, joined by Barry Nelson,
who we already talked about in the Ropers, because he was also the first guy to play James Bond.
Oh, boy. No, he wasn't James.
He was Jimmy Bond.
He was Jimmy Bond. Week 16, John Wade, Pat Collins, Joel Siegel, and Peggy Cass. And week 17, we have Soupy Sales, John Wade, Peggy Cass, joined by Marianne Mobley. Week 18, Nipsey Russell, Soupy Sales, and Fanny Flagg are joined by Anita Gillette.
Who's done like everything over the last, 40, 50 years?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Greg, are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Week 19, Soupy Sales, Fanny Flagg, and Peggy Cass are joined by Tom Seaver.
Oh! That is
okay,
terrific.
that's a surprise.
That is
a surprise. But again, upper echelon of New York society.
That is terrific. No pun intended, because, yeah, obviously. But
he would have been traded to the Reds by this time, wouldn't he?
He would have been traded to the Reds. Thanks a lot, M. Donald Grant, and thanks a lot, Dick Young. Freaking a-holes. But he did come back to the Mets in '83 for that one season before he got claimed by the White Sox off waivers. And by the way, speaking of the Chicago White Sox, we'll be talking about someone who was involved with the White Sox on this show in a bit.
I see where you're going. But it's interesting, talking about New York society, and Tom Seaver's on the panel. Well, problem is he's living in Cincinnati at this point.
I bet he probably still had like an apartment or a house in New York.
Well, he was at least playing or representing Cincinnati.
Well, he had people playing representing Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, so week 20, we have Nipsey Russell, Polly Bergen, and Kitty Carlisle, joined by Henry Morgan, who's just an old hat at this sort of thing. Seriously, he was.
Yeah, he was the curmudgeonly type on these shows. He always came across as a curmudgeon on I've Got a Secret.
He was the OG, man.
He was the lovable curmudgeon.
Yep. Week 21. Panelists were Gordon Jump, Peggy Cass, Jay Johnson, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 22. Nipsey Russell, Anita Gillette, John Wade, and Kitty Carlisle.
Just a heads up, you're going to be hearing a lot of the same names from this point on. But no, I'm just taking a look ahead. I think week 26 is our next original name or person who hasn't been on the cast or the panel previously.
Yeah. Week 22, Nipsey Russell, Anita Gillette, John Wade, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 23, Soupy Sales, Pat Collins, Dick Clark, and Peggy Cass. Greg, that is actually your Zoom background, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I ducked my head.
That is from week 23.
Yes.
Because I see...
you see Soupy, you see Dick.
I see Soupy, Dick, and Pat Collins.
I only picked the best.
Damn right you do. Week 24, Nipsey Russell, Pat Collins, Tom Seaver, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 25... Soupy Sales, Anita Gillette, Gene Rayburn, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 26, Nipsey Russell, Soupy Sales, and Polly Bergen are joined by Carol Shelley. Who'd that girl be?
From Truth by Consensus Wikipedia, Carol Shelley was a British-American actress who made her career in the United States. Her many stage roles included Gwendolyn Pigeon in The Odd Couple, the character of Madame Morelby in the original Broadway cast of the musical Wicked, and she won the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Play for her performance in The Elephant Man in 1979.
Because, we got to keep this show highbrow.
Oh, hold on. Did we talk about Polly Bergen yet?
We mentioned her name a few times. Why?
Oh, because in one episode, Alan Coulter mentions that Polly Bergen is going to be appearing in the upcoming miniseries, The Winds of War. Now, remember...
Well, it'll be coming up in about 3 years.
Yeah,
or
but
2
remember,
years.
The Winds of War's production took like 4 or 5 years. So that's probably why Alan Coulter said that.
It was upcoming, all right. As a matter of comparison, how long did it take War and Remembrance to be produced?
I don't know. Probably the same length. Because I think it was like 88, 89 it aired.
Yeah, I'll look that up later.
And also, just for comparison, how long did it take for The Winds of Whoopi to be produced?
6 minutes. It would have been less, but Steve Martin had to go to the bathroom.
I had to ask. And now we're going to get Greg laughing for 20 minutes.
Week 27, Nipsey Russell, Anita Gillette, Gene Rayburn, and Polly Bergen. Week 28, Soupy Sales, Anita Gillette, Jay Johnson, and Pat Collins. Week 29, Soupy Sales, Carol Shelley, Tom Seaver, and Kitty Carlisle.
I find it weird that Tom Seaver's on so many weeks. Now, obviously, this was done outside the baseball season.
Obviously.
But yeah, I just find it hard, not necessarily hard to believe, but kind of interesting that he appeared on so many weeks.
Well, I'm looking at the dates of when this aired, and I'm thinking to myself, this was like right before Pitchers and Catchers, so he had the time.
So yeah, if you look at it, Tom Seaver around this point, he probably had mid-October of 1980 to probably mid to late February of 81 available. So he had plenty of time.
Oh yeah, he had nothing but time. Week 30, Nipsey Russell, Carol Shelley, Soupy Sales, and Pat Collins. Week 31, Soupy Sales, Pat Collins, Henry Morgan, and Peggy Cass. Week 32 would be Nipsey Russell, Marcia Rod, Rex Reed, and Kitty Carlisle. Marcia Rod, she is an actress. She was doing MASH at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, she was on Broadway too. Week 33, Soupy Sales, Anita Gillette, John Wade, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 34, Soupy Sales, Carol Shelley, Rex Reed, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 35, Nipsey Russell, Polly Bergen, John Wade, and Kitty Carlisle. Week 36, Soupy Sales, Anita Gillette, Rex Reed, and Pat Collins. Week 37, Soupy Sales, Marcia Rod, John Wade, and Carol Shelley. Week 38, Nipsey Russell, Anita Gillette, Rex Reed, and Peggy Cass. And the final week, Nipsey Russell, Carol Shelley, Soupy Sales, and Kitty Carlisle. So yeah, they did their best to live up to the high expectations of such a storied franchise.
This is where we put in the gif of Bart Simpson holding the cake that said, "At least you tried."
Yeah.
But no, they did try. It's from what I'm seeing, it looked like the clearances were a big issue because taking a look at the cities where it aired, it didn't air in Cleveland. Not that I'd remember that much from 41 years ago at this point, but yeah, Cleveland is at the time I think was like the 15th biggest market, and all it takes is a couple of big markets not buying into the show for it to fail or not last long.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of these markets, and you have a combination of the legacy stations from New York and Los Angeles, and then you had pretty much every field communications station that existed in the 80s, which would have ultimately been bought out by Metro Media to fill in the gaps for Fox and UPN and the like. On the Mark Goodson wiki, the lowest market they have is Reading, Pennsylvania.
But we did have a number of famous people show up as subjects on this show.
Yes.
And really, the list of names is pretty amazing.
Oh, yes.
Some people who were very famous at the time, but maybe you didn't know their face. Some people who'd be famous a little later in life for different reasons. And I know Greg got a partial list of those folks.
Yes. So first we have Tom McKee.
Oh, who that guy be? No, I'm kidding. I know who that guy be.
Well, we know who he is, but
I think I should play this right now. That's who Tom McKee is.
He heard that a lot.
Yeah, he heard that almost 50 times. Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Tom McKee was, in 1980, Ken Jennings before Ken Jennings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a funny thing you mentioned, they would actually meet Tom McKee and Ken Jennings in I'm not sure if this is a future entry, but GSN's Grand Slam.
No, you're not doing Grand Slam over my dead body. No. That was a good show.
And we have enough of Dennis Miller on the list already.
True. But yeah, Ken Jennings and Tom McKee would actually be in the Grand Slam tournament. Where you have, like, all the great game show players, and then one person who won lingo.
For some reason.
Corporate service!
And, of course, Tom McKee, if I didn't mention it, was the biggest super champ on Tic-Tac-Doe. Won $300,000. So, and a 43-game winning streak, which was unmatched until Ken Jennings had the famous 74-game winning streak in 2004 on Jeopardy.
Yep.
Okay, so the second famous subject, Chuck Jones.
If you don't know who this person is, we cannot be friends.
We cannot help you.
We can't help you.
But one of the legendary cartoonists of all time.
Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, Ricky Tikki Tavi.
Oh my God.
He did everything.
He did everything.
Everything.
My brother had, like, for a long time, I don't know if he still has, I don't know where it is, but he had on his wall, like, an animated Chuck Jones cell from, I believe, Duck Dodgers.
Oh, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
A Porky Pig.
As #1 space cadet?
Yes.
Nice!
Yeah. Okay. A next favorite subject, and what can we say about this guy? But at the time, this guy was the manager of the Chicago White Sox, and at the time he was the youngest manager in Major League Baseball. And now, ironically, 40-something years later, he's once again the manager of the Chicago White Sox and is the oldest manager in Major League Baseball, Tony La Russa.
And his other big claim was he has a law degree.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, so it wasn't just he was the youngest major league manager, but I believe at that time he was the only manager to have a law degree, to have a JD.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, and this is because I saw a clip of his appearance recently, he fooled the entire panel. He stumped the entire panel on to tell the truth. And not only that, but the most amazing thing is, of the three people, he was the only person not wearing a baseball uniform. You would think that would tip the panel off that he is Tony La Russa. No.
And I don't blame them for not knowing who he is in 1980. But the thing is, by about 87, 88, that's when Tony La Russa really hit the big time with the Bash Brothers, and they made a number of World Series. And yes, and then you get even later into the 90s, he had a video game, for heaven's sake.
Oh, God.
His Sega Genesis game is probably one of the top EA Sports games ever.
It ranks very highly. It is a very good sports game. One of probably my 3 or 4 favorite games.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the fourth person, well, her episode actually aired on Buzzer a year ago, I think, as part of International Women's Day, or 2 years ago. Either a year ago or 2 years ago. But Rosa Parks.
And of course, y'all know her story.
We all know her story, of course. But yeah, Buzzer aired her episode as part of an International Women's Day marathon. And it was 2019, because I do remember, because this was definitely before the podcast, I do remember in that marathon, Mike, they aired the Password Plus episodes with Carol Burnett, Vicki Lawrence, and Joanna Gleason and McLean Stevenson that actually just aired this past week on Buzzer.
Yeah.
Yep. They were all doing it in character.
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, Vicki Lawrence is a total pro for keeping the kayfabe as Mama. Oh. It was just...
Well, they all did a pretty good job keeping the kayfabe.
Yeah. Especially our boy McLean.
Yeah. You know, that sort of thing would not be tried again until the, very, 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 very first season of Celebrity Family Feud that also aired on NBC with Al Roker and the cast. Yeah, on one hand, you have the cast of My Name is Earl, completely in character. On the other hand, you have the cast of The Office, not in character.
Why? What?
Exactly!
Come on. We want to see Dwight in character. Come on.
False. You do not want to see Dwight in character. You want to see the idea of Dwight in character.
Yeah. Okay. Our next subject, oh my God. A legendary name, especially on the Sunday morning talk show scene. John McLaughlin.
He of the famous McLaughlin group. Underwritten by Chubb.
Underwritten by Chubb.
Now, really, was that Sunday morning? Because we got it here at on Friday nights.
We also got it on Friday nights.
Well, at least locally, it aired on Sunday morning here on WNBC.
Yeah. So you know what, Greg? I'm sorry to do this to you, but given what you said,
yeah.
Yeah, that's another button I have on the soundboard here. And that's Dana Carvey on SNL. That's not really John McLaughlin.
By the way, John McLaughlin would play up his character on an episode of Pete and Pete, and it's awesome. You should look at it.
Oh, yeah. R.I.P. John.
Well, speaking of R.I.P.
Oh. Yeah, we just lost him a few months ago. But, another
we lost him a month ago, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Another television legend, Larry King.
Your thoughts, Tracy Jordan, on how this is going to impact Wall Street?
Larry, I'm not an expert, but I do have a strong opinion. New York, as we know it, will no longer exist tomorrow.
Expand on that.
Look, I grew up here, Larry, in the days before Starbucks. And if Wall Street crashes, it'll be the 1970s all over again. People will get mean. The streets won't be safe. It'll be graffiti everywhere. And the movies will only cost $3.
Tracy Jordan saying three serious things and then a joke.
Yeah, and he was doing radio at that point.
Yeah, he wouldn't be on CNN for another couple of years since they just started.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is he wouldn't join CNN for, I think, another 4 or 5 years at that point. I think he joined in 85. In addition to all those celebrities, there's another name that over the last 10 to 15 years has sort of got ingrained in pop culture, and that's Ed Hardy. Ed Hardy was on, the real Ed Hardy was on To Tell the Truth in 1980. And I thought Ed Hardy was just some brand that just popped on the scene 15 years ago or 12 years ago. No, Ed Hardy is a very famous tattoo artist.
Oh.
Yeah, the things you learn watching To Tell the Truth. And he actually had one of a model or somebody that he had done work on modeling his artwork, his tattoo work, and they showed it off after the real Ed Hardy was exposed, for lack of a better word, exposed. But also on top of that, somebody we've mentioned in the past, who was an actor in the 50s and 60s and then went to becoming a police officer in the 70s. Ken Osmond, another person who recently passed away.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And
yeah, he was a subject.
And you know what else he was on?
Well, he was on Top Cops. I know that much.
He was on the week of Match Game Hollywood Squares with Gallagher.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to ruin your fun, but yes, he was on Match Game Hollywood Squares that week where it was Leave It to Beaver week plus Gallagher for some reason.
I'm just going to say this again. A missed opportunity. You could have ended the week with Ken Osmond assisting Gallagher with the watermelon. Have him smash it. The entire crowd in Burbank goes nuts. End of the week. There you go.
Yeah, they didn't allow any watermelons on the set that week, sadly.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, for a show that may have flown under the radar a little bit, it had some huge names, especially in retrospect. Rosa Parks, Larry King, Tony La Russa. Those are some mighty big names. And to have them on the show in 1980 when, well, obviously Rosa Parks was very famous at that time. You may not have known her face, but everybody knows her story. And, you know, again, Tony La Russa, he was, I don't want to say a nobody, but
he was just starting out.
40 years, over the last 40 years, he's become a Hall of Famer. And, you know, what can we say about Larry King that hasn't been said over his last, 30-year career or the 30 years he was at CNN or however long it was? So do we have anything else to add?
Well, maybe we can talk about why it was short-lived, maybe.
That's a good question, because it was for all intents and purposes, it was a really solid show, and it just lived up to the premise and lived up to the legacy. So why did it last so short?
Well, like I said, I mentioned earlier, the clearances might have been a big issue. I mean, yes, it was in some big markets, but other markets it did not appear in.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, because Tic-Tac-Toe and Jokers would still be the two main draws in syndication, and if I'm not mistaken, there's still the wheel model that they'd have to work with, and I'm thinking this was part of the wheel model, and they would have to cycle in and cycle out shows, and we would be on the tail end of that. I mean, we would be going into, hey, forget the wheel model, let's find a show that we can strip.
And I just found it interesting. I just thought of this. They got Tom McKee on there, who won on a show that wasn't a Goodson-Todman show. That was Barry and Enright.
Yeah.
So that's maybe potentially working for your competition there. Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Although there's
probably a market that airs both shows, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure at that point there's at least one market that aired both shows. But also I think it may have been maybe a little too radical, potentially. Just, again, going back to the show that you had in the 50s and 60s and 70s, you had some consistency there. It wasn't too, I don't want to say radicalized. I mean, you knew you had Gary Moore there. You know you had Bud Collyer there. And then Joe Garagiola the last year, because obviously, Gary Moore retired for health reasons. Robin Ward was not a known entity like all those folks. I mean, at least, Joe Garagiola comes along. We know who he is as a baseball player, as a commentator, as Today Show host. Yeah, he did it all.
He was a renaissance man in TV.
He was.
A renaissance man in TV, absolutely. But Robin Ward was, again, an unknown. Yeah, he was big in Canada, but you weren't really selling this to the Canadian market, I would assume.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, when you take away all of the flash, because there was a whole lot of flash here. You take away all of the flash, it's the same game. It's the same game you played in the 70s and the 60s, and I guess you wouldn't be able to sort of zhuzh it up or sex it up until John O'Hurley got a hold of it in 2000, 2001. If such a thing was even possible.
No, you're right there. Yeah, the 90s version was very straightforward and had a lot of class, and not to say that John O'Hurley didn't have class, but it was a little more provocative, let's say.
Yeah. Let's see. We have the nun who practiced martial arts and the founder of Google. Well, one of the founders of Google. That guy's sleeping on money now. Anyway! And then you have the 2016 version, which is still going on right now, that ABC slept on for a year before they aired it. And when they aired it, it was a really good show, and it was a really big hit, and people actually watched it.
Yeah.
And they've been airing it ever since. They've been following the formula ever since.
Yeah, and it's now on 5 years. And now, because of COVID, they've actually switched the formula up. So instead of 4 panelists, you have 3 panelists socially distant.
Yeah, and that's sort of historic, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And also, I'm going to add, I'm making a plea here. To tell the truth, Fremantle Media, get Betty White back on the show before her 100th birthday. And also, just so she can claim that she was on a game show in, I think, 8 decades, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that by itself is historic. But if you could get her at 99, assuming that she still has all her mental faculties and her health is okay.
And she gets the COVID shot.
Well, I didn't want to say that.
And we all pray she does.
Yeah. But I think that would be absolutely a historic moment, because I'm sure at that point she would be the oldest celebrity to be on anything ever, or most likely one of the oldest celebrities to be on anything ever.
True. Bob Hope wasn't on anything when he turned 100.
No.
No, he was in bad health at the time. I thought there was something when George Burns turned 100. I don't know if it was just a retrospective, but
might have been just
seem
a
to remember.
retrospective.
Yeah, I seem to remember his 100th birthday was a big one.
It was a big one, yes.
Come on, Betty, just make it 11 more months.
Come on.
Well, I want you to last forever. I want you to be eternal, but let's get to 100.
We need Betty White to live until we perfect cyborg technology to the point where she never dies.
We can have the vivacious head of Betty White. So do we have anything else, gentlemen? I think we covered pretty much everything. We covered the people who did the show in terms of the panelists and also the central characters, the famous ones. And we talked about why it may not have lasted, and we made some very good points on that. I think we might need to put a bow on this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To tell the truth, from 1980, it was the game show you know and loved with a little post-disco flash. Unfortunately, since it only lasted a season, compared to Bud Collyer and John O'Hurley and Anthony Anderson and Gary Moore, it was a thing on TV. But what a thing on TV.
Yeah. And it had Big Red.
Lots of red.
Yeah.
No, Big Red, not lots of red, Big Red.
Alan Coulter, silly.
Alan Coulter, exactly.
Well, I'm obviously getting tired, so nothing left to do but say visit our website, It Was a Thing on TV, for our past episodes, minisodes, and live shows. Links to all of our socials. We are on all the social medias at It Was a Thing on TV. And, of course, our show is available where fine podcasts can be streamed. And if you are on YouTube, do not forget to smack my bell in order to be continuously updated with future entries. So, what do we have on tap next week?
Well, next week we have, of course, last November we had the poll for Election Day on what show we were going to cover after the presidential election. Now, I submitted a nominee, Chico submitted a nominee. My nominee won. So as a compromise, Chico's nominee would get a slot in 2021. And That time is now.
So next week we are covering Ace Crawford, Private Eye.
Yes. And of course, we're also, as Mike mentioned in the previous show, he is having his Money in the Bank, which is the TV adaptation of You Don't Know Jack. So we have those to look forward to next week, and we hope you'll be with us right here when we cover those subjects on It Was a Thing on TV. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next Monday.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for another installment of Alan Coulter's Celebrity Interview. Take it away, Alan.
Well, thank you, Dave. Hey, by the way, do you know a good rabbi? You know a good rabbi?
No, I know. Why do you ask?
Well, I asked because I figured we should get married now that you've given me the hardest screwing I've had since my honeymoon.
What? Wow. For the love of God, Alan, what are you talking about?
Yeah, for the love of God, what are you talking about? Can the Bumpkin Act, Gomer. You know I've spent months trying to book tonight's guest for Alan Coulter's Celebrity Interview. Perhaps they look familiar? Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman? Huh?
I'm sorry.
De Niro? Hoffman?
I'm sorry, Alan. I'm very sorry.
Hey, not a problem, Dave. Hey, Paul, do you know any Barry White?
Now, wait a minute. What does that have to do with this?
Well, I thought you might like some mood music next time you spend 20 minutes kissing these guys' asses.
Yeah.
Oh, Robert, your muscles were so big in Raging Bull. And Dustin, can we take off our shirts and watch Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium? Can we? Come on, have some dignity, Letterman. If I want to see Dustin Hoffman get jerked off by a senior citizen, I'll rent The Graduate.
Now, Alan, that's not exactly what happened, Alan.
That is exactly what happened. Hey, you got a pencil? Do you?
Yeah, I have a pencil right here. What do you?
Write this down, cocknob. You gank my stash again, I'll punch your wrinkled lips so far down your throat you'll be kissing your own ass.
Oh.
Hey, as for you, Fonzie, you cross me again, I'll string you up by your tongue and go Jake LaMotta on your junk. You, I'm talking to you. And you, Ishtar, I'll kick your nuts so hard you won't have to tuck your sack to play Tootsie.